Hi guys, so we are back again to delve into geopolitics from an African perspective. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Amanda Akalonu and this is the Amanda Show. On this show, we discuss happenings around the world and how it affects Africa. In general, that is looking at geopolitics from an African perspective. On today on the Amanda Show, of course, we are going to discuss the biggest news story in the world today, and that is the comeback of the Orange Man. Yes, Donald Trump is getting back to the White House. And I want to discuss how this affects Africa based on a video that has now gone viral. In the video, Donald Trump was laying out his plan on how to deal with the National Security and Intelligence Agency apparatus. And this, for me, this is something that I want us to look closely because definitely whatever is going on in the White House is going to affect we here in Africa. Then from that, we are moving over to Mozambique. The protests in Mozambique are still going on. This is the protest that erupted after the elections, that a lot of people have cried foul play that elections were rigged. So the protests are still going on. And this past week, on Thursday to be precise, we saw the largest protest ever in this series of protests taking place in Mozambique. So I want us to look closely at the situation in Mozambique and also check, is there some external influence taking shape right here? And finally, after discussing what's going on in Mozambique, we will come to Nigeria. The ambassador of Israel to Nigeria has just said that Iran is behind the terrorism that is taking place in Nigeria. I want us to delve into that statement and find out if it is true. Welcome to this amazing episode of the Amanda Show. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and share this video with your friends so that we can amplify Africa's place on the global stage. Let's begin. The Orange Man is back. Now, before I get into this topic about Donald Trump, I first want to say that I know that Donald Trump triggers emotions. It's either you really like him or you really hate him. I know, so why I'm saying that is because a lot of people are going to have their opinions in the comment section, which is fine, but please let us keep it respectful. So, Donald Trump is back in the White House. And a lot of people have branded it that he's coming back for vengeance to deal with everybody who was bad to him in his first term, and all that. But there's a video that is now going viral around the world that I want us to look at. Now, in the video, he lays out his Donald Trump, that is, he lays out his plan on how he wants to deal with the national security and intelligence apparatus that he believes, and not just him, a lot of people believe are responsible for several of the crazy things that is going on in the United States and even United States activities around the world. So before I get into what I want to say, watch the video.
Here's my plan to dismantle the deep state and reclaim our democracy from Washington corruption once and for all, and corruption it is. First, I will immediately reissue my 2020 executive order restoring the president's authority to remove rogue bureaucrats, and I will wield that power very aggressively. Second, we will clean out all of the corrupt actors in our national security and intelligence apparatus, and there are plenty of them. The departments and agencies that have been weaponized will be completely overhauled so that faceless bureaucrats will never again be able to target and persecute conservatives, Christians, or the left's political enemies, which they're doing now at a level that nobody can believe even possible. Fourth, to expose the hoaxes and abuses of power that have been tearing our country apart, we will establish a Truth and Reconciliation Commission to declassify and publish all documents on deep state spying, censorship, and corruption, and there are plenty of them. Seventh, I will ask Congress to establish an independent auditing system to continually monitor our intelligence agencies to ensure they are not spying on our citizens or running disinformation campaigns against the American people, or that they are not spying on someone's campaign like they spied on my campaign. Finally, I will push a constitutional amendment to impose term limits on members of Congress. This is how I will shatter the deep state and restore government that is controlled by the people and for the people. Thank you very much.
Did you hear that? So, if you believe what he just said, and I don't have any reason to doubt, of course, maybe when he gets into office, things can happen and he throws out that plan. But for now, let's just work with what he's saying. Clearly, Donald Trump has the interest to go to war with the national security and intelligence apparatus. And how does this affect Africa, you may ask? Because everything he's saying it from the context of the United States. But how does this affect Africa? I want us to remember the CIA's role in chaos across the continent. The CIA is the intelligence apparatus is talking about, the CIA and the FBI, of course, but the CIA, for we that are outside of the United States, is the CIA that we have to contend with. How many regime change operations has the CIA conducted in Africa? There's been several. Many coups that has destabilized Africa has been created and executed by the CIA. Many of our leaders that were killed, people like Thomas Sankara, all of this were done by the CIA. So if this guy says he's going to war with the CIA, I think it's a good thing for us in Africa because that institution has been one of the worst enemies of Africa. Yes. Now you don't have to like Donald Trump to look at this as what it really is, which is something that will happen for the benefit of Africa. Now you may think, okay, it's just regime change, so there's not a big deal. No, don't say that. Regime change is a big deal because when there's regime change keeps happening, it causes political instability. And when you have political instability, you cannot get anything done. Nothing, everything, whether it's economic progress, security progress, because when there's political instability, it inevitably leads to the rise of security challenges. So this is taking place right now. And if Donald Trump goes to war with the CIA, it's going to be in the benefit of Africa. So when we talk about the CIA, we're also going to look at more subvert activities like using the US aid to push not well to manipulate civil societies so that they are the civil societies within a country. Now since we're talking about Africa, civil societies within Africa to push for US interests in that country at the detriment of the respective countries. We're also going to look at institutions like the NDA, the National Endowment for Democracy, which is really which works all across Africa and which is really regime change for because then back then when the CIA was getting involved, I think there was it was receiving a lot of backlash. So they had to create the NED to continue as the arm of the CIA that handles regime change operations. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not coming here to scream, oh, all Africa's wars are going to go away because the orange man is back. We remember his first term. And his first term, it wasn't like it was completely it wasn't like he was completely pro Africa. He wasn't. In fact, he has made some really annoying statements about Africa, and I'm not going to deny that. But right now, when we are dealing with geopolitics, we are going to have to remove our emotions and look at things the way they are. Which is why I said, okay, let's take a closer look. Right before this video that just came out, everybody knows that United States policy to Africa has been the same for decades. It has never changed. Even when we had a so-called black person in the White House, Barack Obama, the US's policy to Africa was the same. In fact, I even think that Obama was one of the worst things that happened in Africa. I'm saying it. Barack Obama was one of the worst things because you would have thought that because he was from Africa, and he's not. This is not someone who is from Africa but doesn't know where he's from. He knows the part of Kenya where he's from. So you think because of that connection, he will be more thoughtful and more considerate to Africa. No, his administration was worse for Africa than that of Bush and even that of Trump. He was the one who unleashed the chaos in Libya. So I get that, right? United States foreign policy to Africa is always going to remain the same regardless of what happens. But the caveat now is Donald Trump. And I think this is the issue that many of his within the national security and the intelligence apparatus, the issue they have with him is that Donald Trump is a wild card. You don't know where he's going to go. You may think, oh yeah, we have him now, and this is what he's going to do. He then comes in and he does something else. So you can't peg Donald Trump, which is why I decided to highlight this video that he just made, threatening to go to war with the people who have been going to war with Africa, the CIA. Do you understand? So because Donald Trump is a wild card, you don't know if he's going to execute it or not. Now I'm of the opinion that considering that his first term was bogged down by this same national security states, that's the national security and the intelligence agencies, considering that his first term was bogged down by them and they are the people that unleashed the so-called lawfare against him, he would have cause to settle with them. And if this video is any indication, he means to settle scores with them, which is why I'm telling us, let us listen to what this man is saying. If he goes to war with the CIA, it benefits Africa. And apart from that, we also always had these issues with this thing with neocons that that's the neoconservatives that he flooded his first term with. He said he was going to drain the swamp. He didn't drain the swamp. Instead, he flooded his first term, his administration in his first term with creatures from the swamp. Okay. Now he's saying that, for example, back then his vice president clearly was a neocon. When I was even following their what they call it, their primaries, Republican primaries, I could not believe the things he was saying. I kept asking myself, this guy was Trump's vice president. He, I'm like, how did Trump pick this person? He also had in his administration people like Mike Pompeo. These are strong neocons, right? But then if you look at his peak now for VP, which is JD Vance, JD Vance has not shown any ties or any has not exhibited any of this neocon ideology or characteristics. So if I'm going to go by the choice he has made with his VP in the second term compared to his first term, JD Vance is not a neocon. You can debate that. You don't have to agree with me. Fine. Let me continue. This is my opinion. You can let me know your opinion respectfully in the comment section below. Now, other than that, I'm not saying if I'm not saying this is what it's going to be. I'm saying if JD Vance is going to be any sign, we can also look at the people he surrounded himself with during his campaign for the second term. We have people like RFK. RFK is one person hates the national security and the intelligence apparatus because RFK, there is so-called rumors that his father and his uncle were taken out by these guys. Do you get where I'm coming from? So if that man, if RFK, who is clearly going to be an integral part of his second term, Donald Trump's second term, if RFK is going to be any indication, we can clearly say that this war with the CIA and the national security and the intelligence agencies may really do happen. And if you go further and say, okay, based on JD Vance and RFK, if you look at other people whom he may bring into, right now we're waiting to see who is going to name his administration. But if JD Vance is any indication and RFK, it's likely going to be people who are more of the America First movement than of the neo-conservatives that believe that the whole world belongs to them so they can do anything they like around the world. So maybe Donald Trump's second term is going to be of more interest for Africa because he's going to war against, not because he's a fan of Africa or he loves Africa, he wants to help Africa. No, but because he's going to war with the people who have caused chaos on the continent for decades. This for me, this is more of this is more of a situation of the enemy of my enemy is my friend. You don't have to like Donald Trump, but if he's going to war with the people who have caused chaos in a continent for decades, you might as well just fold your arms and let him take them out. Don't interfere. What did they say? If you're seeing your enemy fall, let him. Don't get involved. Just let him fall. Now let's create a hypothetical scenario. Donald Trump goes to war with these guys, with the CIA, the FBI. Well, our business is the CIA, not the FBI. But he goes to war with these people who have worked with, they call them the deep states, the shadow government, regardless of who comes into office as president. These guys are there and they create the policies that the president executes. So let's just imagine he goes to war with these people, right? He brings in fresh streets. That is, there are no neocons. Everybody is saying, let's just focus on America's growth. Let's stop these interventions around it. Because one of the things he said on PBD podcast during his campaign period, he said that on the Patrick David podcast. I heard him when PDB was asking, today have a regime change in Iran. And Donald Trump's answer shocked me because the normal neocon would have said, "Oh, of course, we need to have regime change in Iran." Blah blah blah. But what was Donald Trump's answer? He said, "We haven't." He said no. Clearly, he said no. That there's no need for that. But one thing he said that struck me, he said they haven't even fixed the situation. They haven't even governed themselves in the United States. They want to go around dictating who should rule which country around the world. So that clearly shows that this man himself, he's not an ideological neocon. It's just that his past administration, he was swayed by the neocons. So say he goes to war with the intelligence agencies and the national security agencies. What happens? He breaks them up because he's threatening to break them up. He breaks them up. We are free. At least that political nonsense that has been taking place for decades, we have a breath of fresh air with that. Another thing we have to look at is the IMF and the World Bank. But all these regime change operations, that the people will want someone, or the people want someone, the United States imposes another person on them. And that person who is imposed works to the detriment of his country or her country because they want to further America's interest in that country. Or in some instances, the CIA will prep up a person that they want to be for. They want to become the president of your country. They'll prep up that person and use media to paint the person like a hero and an amazing person. So all the Western media will be swooning over the person. You read this um, articles and you read these stories in the Western media, painting this person as a hero, you now think that this person is so going to be the best thing for your country. So you don't know that they have sold you a candidate. You would have maybe you thought that you chose that candidate by yourself, but you don't know that they sold you a candidate. And then when the candidate comes in, the candidate just works for the interests of the United States to the detriment of your country. So these scenarios, we won't be experiencing it. At least it will greatly reduce because I don't think the CIA is going to go down without a fight, right? So at least it will greatly reduce. In fact, another good thing that can happen, even if let's say, okay, he doesn't completely execute it, he doesn't succeed going to war with the CIA, they will be so ingrained in Trump. What is he going to do? They'll be so distracted by him and his administration that the way they've been able to work freely without distraction, say under, for example, under the Biden administration or any other administration before now, they won't have that leeway because even if they are working, they'll keep looking back. Oh, Trump, oh, Trump. So he's going to be a perfect distraction for us. Perfect distraction for us to get our act together, to create an African agenda. This is what we, in the next 4 years, this is what we want to do with Africa. Africa is not going to be the first region to attempt to break out of this manipulation. Russia did it. Well, we still have Venezuela. Countries like Venezuela too are doing it, but they are receiving heavy punishment for that. So I'm saying that for we here in Africa is that we can use whether or not Donald Trump successfully goes against the deep state or the shadow government. Me, I'll just call it what it is: the national security and intelligence agencies, particularly the CIA, that is Africa's enemy. If Donald Trump, whether he successfully goes against them or he does so unsuccessfully, he the mere thought of him being in office is a huge distraction for these people. So I think that even if Donald Trump didn't come into office because, oh, I want to help Africa, no. And even if he may not come into office to say, well, how are we going to help Africa? No. The fact that he's fighting our enemies is a good thing. Like I said before, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And that's all we need in these 4 years of Donald Trump. Let him just keep these people distracted. Let him fight to break them up. Let them be fighting for their existence. And while they go loggerheads with Donald Trump and his administration, we can use this opportunity to build an Africa of our dreams without having outsiders keep meddling and intervening, and whether it's with media, with civil societies, with politicians. Oh my God, it's exhausting. Let him keep them busy while we build. So, what do you think about Donald Trump securing, well, a surprising comeback in political history? What do you think about Donald Trump coming back to the White House? And what do you think for Africa this is going to be? Now, like I said before, I am not saying he's coming in to help Africa. I'm not delusional. I don't expect Donald Trump because he didn't campaign on helping Africa. So, we cannot expect him to help Africa, right? All I'm saying is the fact that he's going against the CIA is a good thing for us. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Let me know what you think about it in the comment section below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and share this video with your friends so that more people can let us know what they think about Trump's second term from an African perspective. What is going on in Mozambique? On the 9th of October, Mozambique had its elections and the political party in power retained power. Now, a lot of people have said, particularly the opposition has said this, even civil societies have said this, and also well as the international observers who went to observe the elections also had issues with the election. They said it was not, it didn't take the form of a democratic process. The opposition has said it's rigged. Yes, it's very possible. And I mentioned this in our last episode of the Amanda Show when I was talking about the elections that took place in Botswana. Now I want us to take a closer look at it. So there's a certain form this protest in Mozambique is taking that I want to shed light on, just in case people may not have noticed. Now, like I said before, this election, the opposition party said it's rigged. It's very possible. Very possible. The civil society groups within Mozambique and also the election observers said it didn't meet democratic standards. It's very possible. I will be honest. I didn't follow the elections in Mozambique, the process, so I cannot say. But it's very likely that this thing has gone on. Why? Because many times, particularly with political parties that have been ingrained in the system for a very long time, many times they behave anyhow. And to think that political parties that engaged in the fight for the liberation of Africa from colonialism would turn out to be so incompetent would be shocking. I don't want to mention names, but even in that Southern African region, many of them Many of them, if you had told them in the 1950s, in the 1960s, in the 1940s, when they were fighting for the liberation of the African people, that they would turn out to be a problem for the continent, they would not have believed it. But here we are. African leaders have failed us, particularly the young people in Africa. They have been failed by our politicians because the Africa that some of them worked in our founding fathers, some of them worked in what I mean by founding fathers, I mean post-colonial um, leaders like Thomas Sankara, like Kwame Nkrumah and Patrice Lumumba. Many of these people, if they would look in the future, oh, if they would have looked in the future to see what Africa would have become, by people who actually fought side by side them, they'll be very disappointed. So African youth are tired because they look around the world and they see a world that is relatively prosperous, a world that has relative stability. Yes, yes, you can argue that the instability in Africa is felt by outsiders, yes. But many times this instability in Africa is felt by outsiders with the consent of people inside. With the consent. I'll give you an example with Nigeria. A few months ago, a sitting governor, a governor of a state in Nigeria, accused a former governor of propping up terrorism in the state, and there was no uproar, no backlash. The media didn't emphasize the situation. In fact, the governor that was accused of propping up terrorism in his state is now played in the federal level. So, like I said, terrorism funded by outsiders cannot exist in Africa without the help of insiders. After all, when they killed Thomas Sankara, who killed him? Who played a part in his death? People within his friends on this continent, in in Burkina Faso. So even if you want to say terrorism in Africa, which is true and there's a lot of evidence to it, terrorism in Africa is propped up by outsiders. But it is propped up by outsiders with the help of insiders. So I said that to say this. Many leaders in Africa have just, they just behave, they failed us. That's the best way I can put it. They failed us, especially the young Africans who look around the world. They see relative stability, relative prosperity. They see dignity for human life. They see the rule of law working excellently, and then they look at home and it's a madhouse. So it's because of this that Africans, especially young Africans, have gotten sick and tired of all these political parties that have existed. They came into power post-colonialism. Now, if you look at that from the standpoint of Mozambique, you can see why a lot of people want the current administration out of power because they have not delivered. Mozambique has battled a civil war recently. Mozambique is battling with terrorism. Of course, people will want a change. But sometimes what you think may be the change may not be the change. What do I mean by that? Because the current administration is so pathetic, according to a lot of Mozambicans, and okay, because the current administration is so pathetic and they have failed at delivering the most basic issue of security, many people are looking other way to other people and say, okay, you might be the help that we are looking for. But that may not be the help that you're looking for, especially if that place you are looking at is being propped up by outsiders. Let's look at the protests going on in Mozambique. So it's looking like The elections were rigged, and so Mozambicans are standing their ground because they want the people who they actually voted for to come into power. Very likely that the elections were rigged because many of these African leaders, it's not hard for them to rig elections. We just saw one in Nigeria last year. It's not hard for them to rig elections. So it's very likely that these elections are rigged. But like I've said before, I said this when I spoke about the protests in Kenya that happened this year. I said this when I spoke about the protests in Nigeria that happened this year. I'm saying this now about the protests in Mozambique. When you are protesting, you have an issue with your government or something that happened in your country and you're protesting, and you resort to and you see people resort to burning down your country. Those people are not working for the interest of Mozambique. They may look like you, they may speak your language, but they are not working for the interest of Mozambique. They are not. Because you tell me why protesters are angry. Yes, but why you're angry and you're burning down infrastructure? You're burning down. Okay, I saw several videos of burning trucks carrying goods, people's businesses. And these protesters are bought. So called, no, they're not protesters, they are rioters. These rioters are burning down people's hard earned money. They're burning it with no care because they're angry at a rigged election. Rigged election is very bad. Rigged election is very bad. And many of these leaders in Africa, even in Mozambique, like I mentioned, they have not dealt with the issues in your country. So I get that you're angry. But anybody that is burning down your country, whether they look like you or not, whether they speak your language or not, they're not working in the interest of Mozambique. They're working for people who want to get things in a certain way in your country. I want to highlight something that I have not seen anybody talk about. For me, what is going on in Mozambique? Yes, we agree your current administration is bad. I agree with you. And I said it's very possible that they rigged the election because many of these African leaders, it's not hard for them. And they rig election only to continue being incompetent. So you want a change, I accept. But this is looking to me like a regime change operation taking place in Mozambique. Why did I say it? And it looks like a regime change operation backed by the United States. This is a CIA operation to remove a certain administration that, for whatever reason, I don't know, and to bring in a certain administration. But just bear in mind that if the people who are burning your country, who are funding those that are burning trucks carrying goods in your country, if they get their way, whoever they bring into office is not going to work to the benefit of your country. We saw that in Nigeria because Nigerians were angry, and rightly so, at the PDP. Nigerians were angry at Goodluck Jonathan. And then when that whole thing with the Chibok girls that were kidnapped from school, very painful, in Nigeria happened, a lot of people were really upset, and rightly so. Because of that, it ushered in an administration that saw Nigeria through three recessions, if I'm not mistaken, maybe even four. That is the Buhari administration. After everything, they did not bring back our girls. In fact, Buhari left office leaving terrorism worse than he met it. Leaving bandits running around burning farms across Nigeria, causing chaos and mayhem. Leaving now, the chaos didn't just stay in the north. We also saw chaos spreading into the southeast, the east. We saw it even several parts, even the middle belt across the country. Initially, it was just located in a certain region. It has spread across the country now. What am I saying? When Nigerians were saying, Jonathan, get out, and they were propping and asking the other one who ran on change, change, we are going to change things. Okay, Buhari came in. He did not bring any change. He left Nigeria worse than he left it. Buhari under the APC. Now another APC administration is in office, and Nigerians have never seen such level of poverty ever in Nigeria. Never seen such level of poverty with this Tinubu regime. But outsiders have been benefiting both from the Buhari administration and this one.
The level of interference by the Obama's government was very overwhelming. It's not as if I couldn't have won the election even with that. But if by my own thinking and also the way some other people looked at it, they go outside the normal diplomatic relationship, then it should be mentioned. Sending that person to Nigeria at the eve of election, after Obama even issued a statement directing Nigerians to vote for the next chapter, that tells you something. And we should not sweep this things under the carpet. If a foreign country, whether African country or even America or any other country, interferes with our own elections, we should mention.
So what am I telling you in Mozambique? The people who will burn your country to the ground are not friends of Mozambique. If you did not know, the US aid is active right now as we speak, is very active in Mozambique. In fact, I saw recently, I don't even know why I didn't notice this earlier, but I saw recently that they were setting up um, a fund for some civil society, just recently, before these elections, for some civil society movement to do some things in Mozambique. This is looking to me like a US backed regime change operation taking place in Mozambique right now. I mentioned before that there are two ways this regime change operation can take place, at least based on what I know. Number one, it can be more subtle and calm, where they will use the media or use or use an incident in your country and play it up in the media so that it will trigger your emotions and you look to vote for some other person. The people that have been prepped up and the United States wants in your country, they use the media to do that. Meanwhile, at the other side, they will now be telling the incumbent, you better get out or we will burn your country to the ground. Jigem. So when the incumbent just says, okay, okay, fine, I'm out. Aha, these people will come in and have their way with whoever they want to come to power. But then there's another way where the incumbent may insist and say, no, they're not going anywhere. Then they use riots, not protests, riots, to cause chaos across the country. And I think that is what we are seeing right now in Mozambique. I know if you're watching me in Mozambique right now, you're very pained and you're saying, no, is this we saw this in Nigeria. So I'm telling you this from experience because we have the luxury of looking back and find out that what was done to Jonathan just to get him out of office, to bring in Buhari, we didn't know back then that was a CIA regime change operation. When many of us went to protest, when many of us carried placards, when many of us we echoed the talking points given to us from the CIA through the media, we didn't know what we were doing. But Buhari came in and he broke the economic back of Nigeria. Tinubu came in and pushed it even further down. So I'm telling you this thing clearly now in Mozambique. This is what is going on in your country. You will now decide how you want to salvage the situation. So you might be saying, oh, Kamada, how do you know? After all, Nigeria, how Buhari, what's his name, how Jonathan left office wasn't with this kind of protest. Okay, I'll give you just recently, we saw what was going on in Georgia. That's the whole protest you were seeing in Georgia because the elections went a certain way that some people did not want. Those things you were seeing in Georgia, the protest, the carrying flags, the hitting, scattering everywhere. It was in fact the Samantha Powell, the head of USAID, she was in Georgia. We've seen this thing in places like we've seen it in Turkey, we've seen it in Hungary, we've seen it in Belarus. So that's why I always tell people don't just follow local politics. Follow your local politics. It's important to know what's going on in your country, but also follow geopolitics because sometimes you'll be able to see certain movements. When you're beginning to see that in your country, you can say, oh, this is the method. So what we are seeing right now, I'm telling you straight up, what we are seeing right now it has all the signs of a regime change operation backed by the United States. Why they want to remove the political party in power, I don't know. But they clearly want to bring in opposition. When that opposition comes in, don't think, do not think that opposition is going to work for the benefit of Mozambique. Don't think. Because this protest now that they are burning goods, trucks carrying goods all across, it has even led South Africa to close border between South Africa and Mozambique. This is so this should even tell you something that they don't care about the economy of your country. Because now that South Africa has closed that border, that land border where there was trade between Mozambique and South Africa, that was giving your people money, that was giving your people food, that was helping the economy of your country, that thing has stopped. South Africa has closed the border. Who is it going to punish? You think it's going to punish the people in office? Don't forget that even if you don't have food in your country, the people in office will still have food. They will still have food the same way sanctions work. Sanctions don't work to get rid of the party in power or the people in power. Sanctions work by punishing the citizens so that the citizens will rise up to overthrow their government. So this one now, this whole burning and looting that has led South Africa to lock the land border between South Africa and Mozambique is going to punish the people. It's not punishing the government. It's not. So I'm telling you this in Africa and also in Mozambique. If you have followed the playbook of United States regime change operations around the world, you will see clearly that what's going on in Mozambique has all the markings of such an operation. If it looks like a dog, barks like a dog, walks like a dog, it is very likely a dog. Tell me what you think about what's going on in Mozambique in the comment section below. And if you're in Mozambique, please share your opinion with us. Let us know a lot more of what's going on ground. Because, like I said, anybody who is burning your country does not, burning the goods, burning your buildings, burning your cars, does not wish you well. Let me know what's going on in Mozambique on the ground in the comment section below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and share this video with your friends, your family, and everybody so that we can amplify the voice of Africans on the global stage. And people will actually know, fellow Africans and fellow Mozambicans will know what's going on, really going on in Mozambique. This is my suspicion of what's going on in Mozambique. And I really hope that I'm wrong, but I don't think I'm wrong. Yesterday in Abuja, the capital of Nigeria, the ambassador of Israel to Nigeria oversaw a screening of a documentary, We Will Dance Again. And the documentary was highlighted what Israel had to endure on October 7th, 2023. It highlighted what Israel had to endure from the hands of Hamas. But after the screening, the ambassador of Israel to Nigeria made some very interesting statements where he mentioned that Iran is behind terrorism in Nigeria. Not just Nigeria, actually. He said Iran is responsible for terrorism everywhere around the world, in West Africa, and even in Nigeria. Then he also mentioned that Hamas is backed up by Iran, Hezbollah backed up by Iran. So every terrorist network around the world is overseen from Tehran, that is the capital of Iran. So we need to come together since Israel has experienced terrorism, Nigeria is experiencing terrorism. We need to come together to fight terrorism. It also said that the world needs to come together to overthrow the government of Iran because the government of Iran, they are extremists, and the only way to deal with terrorism and to bring stability in the world, in different regions around the world, is to get rid of the government in Iran. My first question when I was reading the report of what he said, my first question was, where has regime change operation ever left the country or the region better? Look what happened in Libya. Did it leave the area better? Look around the world where the United States has gone overthrowing governments. It never left the country better. So what makes you think that overthrowing the government, if this is really the worst, Iran, the government of Iran is the worst thing to ever happen in the world, where has so how do you think overthrowing the government of Iran is going to bring peace to the Middle East? If we go from all the overthrowing that we've seen around the world all these decades, if that is any indication, Iran overthrowing the government of Iran is going to lead to more chaos. Not just even any chaos, it's going to lead to the mother of all chaoses. See, I've said this before on this show some months ago, and I'm saying this again. The Netanyahu government in Israel is looking for World War III. They are begging for World War III. And the nations of the world would have to take a serious step back to say no. I'm telling you. Because a world war is not going to benefit anybody, especially we here in Africa. See what is going on in Sudan. And it seems like the whole world has moved on from Sudan. Look what is going on in the DRC. It seems like the whole world has moved on from the DRC. Even in Ethiopia, don't think they will be looking at, hey, see what's going on. We a world war that we did not start, but we'll be dragged into. We saw it in the First World War. We saw it in the Second World War. They will drag us into it, and at the end of the day, Africa will be the biggest loser. We have more to lose because if a war happens now, breaks out on a global scale, everything about development, you just have to put that at the back seat because war is only destruction. So we who are just trying to claw our way out of poverty, what will send us back 100 years. Don't think. So the most important thing anybody can do is to rein in the Netanyahu government, is to make it difficult for them to get a world war. Okay, look at one of the funniest thing I've seen so far. Donald Trump knows fully well that look at the way he's portrayed in the media in his country. There was even a time that an officer in the FBI stated in a text message that they don't want him in office. They will deal with they have contingency plans to deal with him from getting to office. Everyone clearly knows that the national security and the intelligence agencies of the United States does not want Donald Trump in power. The way they have used lawfare to come out against him, the way they've frustrated him at every turn, through impeachment, even assassination attempts. Everyone knows who the enemy of Donald Trump is. Yet, during the campaign, after I believe it was after the second assassination attempt or so, it was after the second assassination attempt or so, he tweeted that Iran is trying to kill him, that Iran is behind the assassination attempt on his life. And I'm like, Donald Trump, are you kidding me? I don't think you, of all people, you don't believe that. When he went on the Flagrant podcast, and they asked him about the assassination attempt, he said it was Iran. When he was on Joe Rogan, he insinuated that it was Iran. And me in Nigeria, who is way thousands of miles away from the United States, I know Iran is not trying to kill Trump. What is going on is they are looking for war with Iran. And seeing that Donald Trump has just been pulled into this thing as if he doesn't even have any, when it comes to the Middle East, as if he doesn't have any agency. He doesn't even know how to say no. Now look, and it wasn't just in Nigeria that this movie was screened. I believe that most Israeli embassies in different countries have done this screening. This is propaganda. They are trying to manufacture consent for a World War III. They are trying to manufacture consent for a third World War that is not in the benefit of Africa. Iran, we know Iran is not trying to kill Trump. But look at Biden. Biden that unleashed his Justice Department against Donald Trump to throw him in jail, that took his mug shots. It is the Biden that has now filed a motion against Iran for attempting to assassinate Trump. Are you people seeing what I'm seeing? Are you people seeing what I'm seeing? If Israel's embassies around the world are popping up and trying to manufacture consent for a third world war to go to war with Iran, Africa, I've said this before, I'm saying this again, we have the most to lose of all the regions on the planet. Of all the regions of the planet, Africa will be the biggest loser. So it is in our interest to say no, we do not want a war. It is our interest to say, okay, fine, okay, let's just get peace. Just anywhere they pull you to vote, go and vote for peace. That was where I was really happy with some of the votes that I've been seeing in the United Nations recently on matters like this. Go and vote for peace. Because these people are the Netanyahu government has gone rogue. Maybe he feels that he just fired his defense minister, Yaland. Yes, he just fired his defense minister. So that even shows you that there's a break-in, there is real disagreement going on within the government. So right now, Netanyahu is literally fighting for his political standing. So in his mind, maybe a third world war is going to salvage his political standing. But it might, I don't know if it will help him. I don't know. I can't say. Because by the time bombs start flying, nobody's thinking straight. By the time bombs start, they have bunkers to hide. We don't have bunkers to hide in. We don't have bunkers to hide in. They came to tell us to give consent to overthrow Iran's leadership. Like, just think of it. Think of the ridiculousness of this thing. Please think of it. That a diplomat will come to this country where he's serving, will come to that country and tell them, let's work together. to overthrow the government of another country. When did this become foreign policy? When did this become okay in international relations to be talking about overthrowing government of another country that the country has diplomatic relations with? Nigeria has diplomatic relations with Iran. Nigeria has diplomatic relations with Israel. So think about the ridiculousness of this thing. Why the government of Israel says, "Come, let us overthrow the government of." Jesus, this thing is very dangerous. Africa, don't get pulled into it. Don't get pulled into it, Africa. This thing is very dangerous because when the bomb starts flying, nobody is here to help us. If you are not sure, look what is going on in Sudan. Look what is going on in the DRC. If you are not sure, Africa has been for a very long time now. Okay, look at Somalia. Somalia, everybody has even forgotten that something has been going on in Somalia for over 30 years. Look at Somalia. So don't think that the people who are pulling you to manufacture consent for war, the people who are pulling you to say, yes, let us go and be bombing, those people who are pulling you, don't think that when the bombs start flying, they will be there to help you. They will not be there. History has showed us the First World War and the Second World War, Africa was the biggest loser. Africa lost. In the last two global wars, world wars that took place, Africa lost. Africa, yes, Germany lost a lot, but look at Germany now. Germany that was the bad guy in the two wars. Look at Germany today. Germany is industrialized. Germany's what they call it, Germany's GDP is in trillions and trillions of dollars. So it's a big. It doesn't look like it went through a war. It doesn't even look like it lost two world wars. See, we in Africa, we are still trying to have 247 power. We are still trying to have food for our population. You dare go to war. You want to dare to go to war. You want to dare to give consent for a global war. When the multipolar world is rising, the multipolar world that is going to benefit Africa, this is our opportunity, the best opportunity we have had in centuries. We are looking at it right here, and you want to blow that up on the altar of Iran, Iran or Netanyahu. You want to blow that up because of Netanyahu. You better start thinking of self-preservation in Africa. You better start thinking of self-preservation. I'm not a fan of Iran. Don't get me wrong. I don't have intentions of visiting the country. I've never been there. I don't have intention of being there. I'm not a fan of Iran. I'm not. There's nothing about Iran that is making me want to be so happy. No, that's making me want to go there and no. I'm not. But I am a fan of self-preservation. It is in Africa's interest to insist that the world doesn't go to war. You feel like nobody listens to you. They will listen to you when you vote in the, at least if they see overwhelming vote against World War III or anything that is looking like World War III. If they see overwhelming vote against it, it will count for something. Let us start from there. Like I said, the multipolar world is emerging and Africa is going to benefit in this multipolar world. Do not let Netanyahu's political standing that is failing be the reason you burn everything to the ground in Africa. No, Iran is not worth the war. Iran is not worth the destruction of Africa. Iran is not worth the plundering of Africa. Iran is not worth it. If Israel has a problem with Iran, and Iran has a problem with Israel, they should talk it out. That is what we encourage. They should talk it out and sort out their differences. If your neighbors are fighting, and we are not even neighbors by the way, but let us say in the global context, all of us are neighbors. If your neighbors are fighting, what do? You tell them talk it out and address it. So if Israel is so mad at Iran, and they say Iran does not like Israel, they should talk it out and find a way to mend their differences, not try to drag Nigeria and the rest of Africa and the whole world into a third world war that will not benefit anybody. So let me know what you think with this accusation from the ambassador of Israel to Nigeria that Iran is responsible for the terrorism taking place in Nigeria now and around the world. Iran is the headquarters of funding of terrorism. Let me know what you think about that in the comment section below. And also let me know what you think about this whole drive, this whole annoying thirst for a world war that doesn't benefit anyone. Share your opinion with me in the comment section below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and share this video so that more people can hear what is going on, that they are trying to manufacture consent in Africa for a third world war. Let me know what you think about that in the comment section below. And that's it. That's all I can cover in this episode of The Amanda Show. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye bye.